Reading Football Club haven't won back-to-back games since December 2017, so when bottom of the table Ipswich rocked up in West Berkshire on Saturday, should we really have expected anything but the difficult, worrying afternoon we eventually received? Fortunately for us and Paul Clement, there is one player standing head and shoulders above the rest to snatch a 2-2 draw from the Tractor Boys. Where would we be without Yakou? That is Yakou Meite, and he is going to be the protagonist of episode 175 of the Tilehurst End. I'm your host, Marc Mayo, as per usual, and joining me are a gruesome twosome of protagonists to really go in with the 2-2 draw attitude that we're going for. And firstly is Simeon Pickup, aka BucksRoyal, aka Sim from Bucks, aka the man with many usernames across various social media platforms, Tilehurst End editor. How's it going, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. We had a nice little Tilehurst End date with myself, you and Ollie, watching the game. Not sure we've done that for a little while, so it's nice to catch up with the guys on Saturday. And joining us for his second appearance on the show as well, down the other end of the line, is Matt Lawrence, aka PannasAndNutmegs on Twitter, writer for the Tilehurst End and all things stats. How's it going, mate?
I'm all good, thank you very much. Feeling a little bit shortchanged. I didn't get the invite on Saturday, but I'm all good.
Oh, trust me, it was very much short notice that it was all arranged. But definitely, I picked up my ticket on Friday night, and one of those moments actually, I kind of felt optimistic on Friday night before the Ipswich game. So it really was a case of that being dashed quickly, and I've got a pretty stern reminder as to why I shouldn't be optimistic quite early into that game. So let's crack on then and get involved in the recap and discuss exactly what went wrong and occasionally right for Reading at the Madstad.
View from the Tilehurst End, recapping this week's championship action.
Well, Sim, I do remember us talking about the last time Reading came from behind to win a league game, and it was indeed April 2017 when the Yapstams Reading beat Rotherham 2-1, and I think Rotherham were bottom of the table when we did that. So what did we really expect to unfold after 3 goals in 10 minutes? Really raucous start to the game at the Medeski. It was one of those where you think of back to the fans complaining there's no entertainment under Yap Stam. We've mentioned it a couple of times on the show, but there is a reasonable degree of entertainment under Paul Clement at the moment. And Sim, those first 10 minutes, 2 goals for Ipswich, bookending, should I say, the Yakou Meite finish. We'll get onto Yakou Meite in a bit, but that first 10 minutes just set the game up in a very interesting manner, didn't it?
Yeah, it was bizarre. I think we just couldn't settle into the game, to be honest. Ipswich knew how to play the occasion. They knew it was going to be an important game there to keep their heads and show up and do all the basics right. And we were the exact opposite. We just looked like a rabbit in the headlights, didn't settle down properly, didn't get going. And besides that goal from Yakou Meite, we were all at sea for, well, not just that first 10 minutes, but the whole half, really. But it's testament to Yakou Meite. They can come up with a moment of magic like that. Really good, kind of like a pullback cross from Sam Baldock from the byline, and Meite does fantastic to get it in from that kind of acrobatic finish. So fair play to the lad.
Yeah, Matt, that first 10 minutes, it really did kind of unfold in an interesting way. Were you surprised by the way Ipswich came out? Because I kind of was. They're very sturdy, very kind of confident and everything. Obviously, I've got a new manager in Paul Lambert who seems to be doing a good job there, but I certainly don't think Reading expected Ipswich to come out the way they did.
No, I thought they set up a lot better than I anticipated. A side that looks cut adrift at the bottom of the table would do, to be honest. But I think they really, like Sim said, played the occasion very well. They were physical, compact. They were looking to get balls into the box very early, looking to put pressure on a goalkeeper and a centre-half partnership that really haven't got that many minutes under their belt together. They were looking towards the long throws, which you could hear the groans from the crowd. And that ultimately is where their first goal came from. So and the second goal as well, the ball travelling almost 90 yards from their goal kick to our penalty spot. And rightly so, they punished us for that mistake as well.
And I think that those 2 goals, I mean, yeah, we'll pick apart the second goal a little bit in Mailbag because we've got a question on it, but the first goal, kind of just a shot from the edge of the area, went through the crowd, could have been saved, but wasn't. It's so fortunate for Reading and the team as a whole, particular, because it wasn't your classic sort of passing move that everyone can feel proud of. This equaliser that Reading scored. Ball down the left, nice ball that Sam Baldock, credit to him, he didn't have a great game, but he did a really good ball into the box. The Meite, and there's only one way he could have finished that. It was purely poacher's instinct, acrobatic, got it round the defender and the goalkeeper. And where do we start with describing Yakou Meite at the moment? Because it's so nice, I think, for this podcast at least, we have something positive, and there is kind of nothing negative in my mind for Yakou Meite at the moment. He's physical, he's in form, he's a classic Reading player in terms of his history. He came from a big club, he moved on young, hungry, wants to succeed at a place like Reading and has the ability. So, Sim, how do you sort of put into words at the moment what Yakou Meite is doing for the football team?
Well, it's not just what he's doing for the football team, but for the club as a whole, to be honest. I think you look at the energy he's got, the positivity he's got, his hard work on and off the pitch, great attitude, is exactly what a Reading player should be. You go back to, say, the Brian McDermott days when we were getting young, hungry, hard-working players and bringing them up and developing them. Yakou Meite would fit right into that kind of mould of player. He's exactly that kind of guy that you want to get the fans off their feet and really give some entertainment. It's not just with the 2 really good goals he scored on Saturday, but the all-round play, the hard work, the really good attitude that just resonates so well with the fans at the moment. And you contrast what he's like at the moment to some of the criticism you'd level at, well, a lot of players in the squad at the moment, and he comes out really well. And it's credit to him that he's gone from being essentially on the edge of the squad in the last 2 seasons to being perhaps one of our first names on the team sheet at the moment.
That's a good point, isn't it, Matt? That Meite is showing up some seriously more experienced pros at the moment, and not just in terms of, you know, the odd game here and there, but consistently performing in a division that he must have played less than 20 games in. And we have players who have played 200, 300 games at this level, and they're not showing it. So is Meite, I mean, carrying Reading is a bit premature to say that he's carrying Reading, but does he have it in him to bring the other players up around him? Do you think that's something that we can kind of hope that he can do?
I'd like to think so, as a fan, that he has that ability to kind of lift the players around him. He's definitely lifting the crowd. I definitely get more excited when he's on the ball. He looks to make things happen, and he's looking to be positive. And I feel that attitude around the squad as well must be infectious, especially when within the dressing room you see a young player like that brimming with confidence. I think it can only be positive for the other players within the team. I mean, he's out tweeting his own goals at the moment. The guy is really feeling himself at the moment, and rightly so. He's had to bide his time playing out on the left wing, and now he's got his chance up front. He's really taken it with both hands, and he's really going to give Paul Clement a decision to make when Bodvarsson does come back, because both of those strikers have been in great form this season, and form that on the past few seasons showing you wouldn't anticipate. I mean, Bodvarsson is averaging a goal every 110 minutes, and Yakou Meite is just in ridiculous form the last 5 games, and he's been averaging a goal every 66 minutes.
Well, can we put those two together then? This is my next question, is can it last? And Bodvarsson coming back is a massive point for, the team. He's, as you say, scoring goals. He is very much a team player. He'll work the channels, works hard, etc. So, Matt, do you think that it can last? And Meite in 2-3 months' time, we'll be talking about him as a Kevin Doyle type footballer, or in 2-3 months we can be talking him as a Nick Blackman kind of 4 or 5 months did the good bits and then not so much after that.
I like to think it will continue, but I do think we need to stay fairly level-headed and not get carried away with Yakou Meite, because he is young. He's only 23. He's only really had 1 full season of senior football, and that was in the French second division, where he only scored 3 goals. He's already doubled that tally this season in the Championship. So, I really like to think that form can continue. Obviously, I don't think it's sustainable that scoring at a rate of and averaging a goal every 66 minutes. I think Neil Maupay at Brentford, who's been in fantastic form as well, is averaging a goal every 104 minutes. So, in truth, this form of the last 5 games is unsustainable. But if we're looking at Yakou Meite getting a return of in double figures this season, I think every Reading fan would have snapped your hand off at the beginning of the season.
Well, that's the thing that I want to sort of work out now is where does he go from here? And Sim, what does Meite need to do next? Where can he get even better? Because obviously with these sort of players, you are looking for consistency. You're looking for them to sort of keep up when those others around him are not doing so well. But that's kind of what Meite's been. That's where he started. He started from being in a team that's doing so badly, and then in theory the team around him can only get better, we hope, and therefore that can improve him as well. And I'm going to tie into that question as well, is as we get towards January, and everyone listening to this podcast, or pretty much everyone, might be starting to see Christmas adverts and Christmas shopping, and a few other teams certainly higher up in the Championship, maybe Leeds and Derby's, those sort of teams, and maybe even the likes of Newcastle low in the Premier League. They might start thinking, hang on, there's a player here. Yes, he's just signed a new contract, but he's hungry. He'll almost certainly want to move up if he gets the chance.
I think the difference at the moment between perhaps Meite being at a club like Reading and maybe getting a move on to a bigger club at the moment, certainly a club doing better than Reading at the moment, is his technical ability. He's great with his aerial presence, with his running, great strength and pace. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but he does use those qualities really well. But in terms of his hold-up play and maybe his passing and bringing others into the game, it's not quite there at the moment, and that's something really important for a lone striker, which Reading usually go with in most games. So that's something he does have to develop, particularly if Reading are going to continue on with this system. You don't want him to be kind of shunted out back to the wing to, say, accommodate someone like Bodvarsson. You want him to get that run of games as a lone striker. And from his own point of view, if he's going to go as far as he can in his career and probably go on to a higher level than we can offer him, then he does have to get a lot better at just bringing the ball into feet, keeping it simple, keeping it composed and laying it off to someone else, because you can get very far with being a good finisher with your feet and your head, but if you can't do the rest of your game, if you can't be an all-round threat, then you're always going to be a little bit limited in your development.
And what's funny is I did actually think, aside from the vitally important goals he scored, Meite's game on Saturday was probably a little bit quiet in the rest of it, and certainly there are other players who had some quiet games. I thought Andy Rinham-Hotter, who started again having played against Bristol City, very quiet in the first half, got taken off, kind of got pushed out to the right midfield towards the end of the first half as Clement tried to reshape and counter what Ipswich had done. A little bit worrying in the sense that as a CDM, as a defensive midfielder, that's the sort of game that Rinham-Hotter, perhaps you'd expect a more experienced midfielder to do well in that circumstance, but it certainly was the sort of game you need your CDM to be shining. Liam Moore had, certainly for the second goal at least, a bit of a struggle. Sam Baldock as well. And Matt, I wonder what's your take on Sam Baldock at the moment, because 2 late chances he missed. The first one I wasn't so worried about. It wasn't a bad effort. He just went for power over the bar as it fell to him in the area. The second one, really nicely worked move that McNulty to McCleary into the box, had time to take a touch and just sort of not a convincing strike on it at all, and it just kind of looped up and over the bar and disappointingly out. And he's one that really, he's not been played in his natural position very often, but he did kind of move into the centre against Ipswich. And what's your take on how he's playing at the moment? Because it's hard to say he's justifying the sort of fee that we paid for him.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he's justifying the fee at the moment, but he just looks like a striker short of confidence at the moment. He's been being played out off the left-hand side, which is naturally outside of his natural position. And his link-up play is good. He's looking to move things into the striker's feet at times, but I feel like it just needs to get a couple of those chances and take them. You can see the impact it's had with the other strikers when they're playing with confidence. Meite scoring overhead kicks this week. I think Baldock just needs to get a real rhythm going. But we've paid the money for a striker like Baldock to take those chances in the big moments in those sorts of games, which are going to prove crucial at the end of the season. And unfortunately, he hasn't taken it this week. But hopefully in the future, with a bit more confidence, we can look to see him taking those opportunities. In terms of a striker as well, I'm glad he's still getting into those positions, getting those chances. It's the cliche of if those chances start drying up, that's when you should really start to worry about the striker rather than them not being able to take them, for example.
It's a fair point to make about Baldock's positioning, but I was quite impressed when McNulty came off the bench against Ipswich. I've been trying to will him forward to do quite well because I quite like McNulty and his sort of link-up play attitude and everything like that. But at the end of the day, our next 2 games are away from home. Baldock has that sort of top of the championship quality finishing. You can rely on him to probably a more extent than McNulty, and certainly more than if you're going to bring someone like Danny Loader into the team. So, Sim, do you take Baldock out of the team or do you leave him in?
I think you leave him in, to be honest, because even if he's not scoring goals at the moment necessarily, as you say, you can rely on him more than other players. And also just, I guess even if you push him out to the left wing, I know it's not his natural position, but he is still naturally a hard-working player. He's got a good attitude, and you've seen him adapt well to the left wing spot. I know it's not what he would like in the long run, but he's taken to it pretty well. He doesn't look too out of place there in terms of his positioning or anything like that. But on the whole, it's about what he does for the team. And I guess if you're choosing between him and some of our other left wingers at the moment, just between him and, say, Modu Barrow might be the more natural choice to have on the left wing, or you might want someone a little bit more exciting in the squad like McNulty or Loader up top, maybe. But Baldock is a reliable player. He's got that experience, he's got that know-how, and that's the kind of quality that we need to draw on to get us out of this mess, because we've looked short of experience and leadership, and if we can get that out of Baldock, then hopefully it'll be a good investment.
Let's end on a couple of positives then from the recap, and I thought Gareth McCleary was another one who made a good impact off the bench. You talk about natural wingers then, it was quite refreshing to see a natural right winger down the flank, and we've been playing Sonny Aluko and Popper, not since Roy Behrens have we, obviously aside from Gareth McCleary, had someone who right-footed, right winger, direct, gets the ball in the box, and I think he kind of made a good impact against Ipswich, and I wouldn't be surprised if he started against Wigan in a couple of weeks' time. And Leandro Bacuna has emerged more and more in the last few weeks, not so much because he's brilliant, although it was a very decent assist for the second goal, but he's kind of become our least bad central midfielder. And I wonder, Sim, what you think about the sort of playoff with that. Swift came off the bench, didn't really do much against Ipswich. Liam Kelly's been neither here nor there for a while. Myler's gone missing. Rinham Hotter, young, inexperienced, you can only expect so much. Bacuna I'd actually credit with being our best/least worst central midfielder at the moment.
I think at the moment, if any centre midfielder is going to take responsibility in a match, it's probably going to be Bacuna, to be honest. As you say, other midfielders haven't quite been on form, but Bacuna looks a lot more confident. He's responding well to playing pretty regularly under Clement. I know he's kind of played a few different roles in the last couple of weeks. He didn't look quite as good in that holding role that he's had in front of the back four when Saïd Talahi was injured, and obviously still is. But with Kelly kind of playing deeper, it allows Bacuna to push on. It allows him to do what he really wants to do, to make those runs forward from midfield into the final third. He enjoys doing that, and it's good to see him responding well to that. And hopefully it's something we can push on with. We do need Talahi back to give us that little bit more balance and to help Bacuna, but Bacuna's doing well as it is.
And Matt, what's your take on Bacuna? Do you think he's the type of player that we can really invest in and say, yeah, well, for the next 18 months Bacuna can be in the team and we're satisfied with that? Or is he always one of those, certainly at the end of last year I thought he was one of those that I'd happily move on, but at the moment, he can't be too picky?
I was definitely in your camp in terms of last season, thinking that he'd be more than happy to move on. But I do think he's kind of turned a corner with his form at the moment, and I don't really think you can argue with the statement that he's probably our best central midfielder. In particular, offensively, he statistically created the most chances within this Reading side of 25, and the nearest central midfielder to him is Kelly with 13. So that's nearly half the number of chances created. So if we were to lose Bacuna, that's a large amount of creativity we'd be losing from the side in central areas. And I do think one of his biggest assets is his ability to carry the ball and break the lines via his dribbles as well. It's an asset that a lot of fans have bemoaned that we've lost within the side since way back when Danny Williams left us to go to Huddersfield, and having that real drive and the legs to beat players from midfield, and a player with the ability to carry the ball, say 30 yards through the centre of the pitch and look to get a back four via that way. But yeah, I do think he's kind of found his level here at Reading towards the lower reaches of the Championship, and that's partly because my biggest qualm with Bacuna is he is a bit of a liability defensively. I do think he has quite clear lapses in concentration where he gets caught ball watching and runners run off the back of him, and he gets caught ball watching and the shape of the midfield breaks. You can do all the shape work you want during training in the week, but if the players don't implement that on the pitch with 90 minutes of concentration, then that's just it's always going to happen, isn't it, really? I do think he looked an awful lot better with Azatolahi behind him, kind of screening the back four. He gave him that security behind him and the license to allow him to try and break into those inside channels as well and really make those driving runs and make to look at more of an impact in the final third.
Azatolahi is a good name to pick up. I completely forgot about him while talking about our least bad central midfielder, and he's probably many fans' pick, even though he's only played about 3 games for Reading. It'd be interesting to see if and when he gets back into the team and how Clement deals with that. I do suspect it'll be Renan Hotter who loses out. I think, Bacuna, your comparison with Danny Williams there, I think, is a prescient one, because I think that's what the club hoped he would be as a replacement for Danny Williams, but he just doesn't seem to have the drive or the will to carry the ball, certainly as far as Danny Williams did, but he probably does as much as anyone in the team. Let's round off the recap then with the man of the moment, Yakou Meite, and his quotes after the game. He's off to join the senior Ivory Coast squad for the first time in the international break. He said, "I think I've deserved it, but I just need to keep scoring goals and doing what I'm doing at the moment on the pitch. I'm happy. I'll be more motivated to keep scoring for Reading, because when you play for the first team at international level, the team is very, very good." And hopefully that is the sort of experience that will keep driving him onto the next level. And we'll be taking a quick look at the other Reading teams in Newsbites in just a few months' time.
Reading Newsbites on the Tilehurst End Podcast.
Right then, let's catch up with the other Reading teams, and the under-23s are in a fine bit of form. Top of Premier League 2, 12 games unbeaten, and with a 3-0 win over Birmingham in the Premier League Cup last time out. Josh Barrett, Tyler Frost, Ben House, all in very decent form at the moment in Premier League 2 and in the Cup. They've got Fulham next in Premier League 2 and in the Cup, so it's a double header against Fulham next after the international break for the under-23s. The under-18s, 9th of 12 in the Premier League table at the moment. They lost 3-1 to Southampton last time out, whereas the women are currently on their international break. They're next in action on Sunday the 18th away to Brighton. Their last game was a 3-0 win over Bristol City. And finally from Newsbites, the Star Hall of Fame nominations are open. The ceremony will be in March. That's Sunday the 17th of March 2019 for the ceremony, but the nominations to get the next batch of Hall of Fame nominees is open. To take part in the nomination process, email media@star-reading.org. That is media@star-reading.org. All of the information will be, of course, on their website and the Twitter and the hut outside the East Stand, and the details will be going in through there for the nominations for the Hall of Fame. So get on that. And boys, then, Hall of Fame nominations. I'm not going to ask you to give me Hall of Fame nominations from the last 140 odd years that Reading have been a football team, because I can't remember exactly who's in the Hall of Fame at the moment myself. There's about 50 of them. But if you had to pick one player from the existing squad who you think has a shot of being a Hall of Fame nominee in the future, who do you think it would be? Sim, you can say that first.
From the current squad?
Yeah.
You've given me a very tough one.
I'm glad you've gone first on this, Sim.
I was really hoping, hoping you go first on this.
Do you want me to take over then?
I'll throw in a name to kick things off, and I'm going to say Jordan Abita as a decent chance as what could become a one-club man. Certainly not many other players in the team at the moment have that a chance or ability, and him coming back from a nasty injury that he's been on at the moment, coming back and really performing well in the team and giving his all, and remaining with Reading for a substantial amount of his career, that is exactly the sort of thing that gets you in sort of club halls of fame, isn't it?
Yeah, can't disagree with that. Certainly a very loyal servant to the club. Hope he comes back from that injury as soon as possible and gets back to playing regularly for the team. I guess otherwise in the squad, there aren't many candidates. I would very, very tentatively say Chris Gunter for a long period of service for this club. I know it's not been a good couple of years for the club, and his form has certainly been up and down over the last couple of years, but he has been loyal to the club for a number of seasons now, taken at least one or two pay cuts to stay at the club, and that's something that we should appreciate. I know you can't give him too much credit for for some of the form that he's been on. He's been a bit disappointing the last couple of years, but certainly in terms of his contributions to the club, then yeah, he deserves a lot of credit.
Matt, it'll be a hell of a turnaround if Sonny Aluko ever makes it in.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance of that happening, Mark.
Go on, and who's in yours?
From this current squad, I think you guys have taken... Beta's probably one of the better shouts there in terms of being a one-club man. In terms of ability, Liam Moore, if he can recapture that form that we saw under Stam, could potentially make a claim there. Or Liam Kelly purely by longevity. If he were to stay here for another 10 years at the club, then he'd probably be in with a shout to make that Hall of Fame spot.
Yeah, definite one club potential for Liam Kelly. So those are the Star Hall of Fame nominations are open. Email Star, get in touch with them, and they'll help you, direct you to the nomination process. Hopefully we'll be covering it as the event comes round in the spring, as per usual, and also in a couple of weeks on the show when we come back in the international break. Hopefully I'll be talking to Roger Titford of Star, who's got a new book out involving Reading and their escapades in the middle of the 20th century, shining a light on a period that certainly a lot of fans, myself included, are not that well versed on. So we'll have to keep that in mind as we move forward and head on to the next section of the show, which is the mailbag.
Get social with the boys.
Find them on Twitter
at the Tilehurst End
and facebook.com/the Tilehurst End.
Scott from the States kicking us off with a question in from Twitter saying we have a good problem. When Bodvarsson returns, how can he and Meite be successfully used together? And a bad problem, if you were put in charge of Reading's defence, how would you fix it? And I'm going to answer the second part of that with the bad problem. Put in charge of Reading's defence, probably stick a proper central defensive mid in there, like Said Ezatolahi, for example, and actually defend quite deep. If you notice, the Ipswich goal that we conceded and a couple of others that have gone in against us over the past few weeks have been from high lines. And yeah, Liam Moore seems that type of player who can, be a high line defender. John O'Shea certainly isn't, and therefore just get back to basics and sort the midfield out, keep the midfield solid, and let the defence just marshal a pretty refined area of the pitch is my advice on that. Sim, we've kind of discussed the Bodvarsson and Meite thing, but if you have anything to say on that and the defence, what's your take on it?
I think the thing with the defence, you just need to build up an understanding in that back five. We've kind of been changing our defence around quite a lot this season. Obviously, we've had the 3 different goalkeepers. We've had different combinations at full-back and at centre-back, and we just need to pick a back five and go with it. I know it's not always easy when you've got players constantly getting injured left, right and centre, but to an extent, you've got to just keep on playing the same players and let them build up an understanding, and that will make them more confident. When they know what to expect from the players around them, they'll be that little bit more confident, and you'll see fewer mistakes, hopefully. That was one bugbear that I had about the team selection on Saturday, that Sam Walker came in and had a decent game against Bristol City. Nothing amazing, certainly not on the level of Jarkler against Millwall a couple of weeks ago, but for him to just suddenly get dropped after one game, I thought that was very harsh on him. And from the point of view of John O'Shea and Liam Moore, who are defending in front of him, that adds just that little bit more uncertainty in their mind that they've then got to adjust to Anthony Jarkala coming back into the side. They've got to just have that little rejig, and in little moments like when that long ball comes over for the second goal, they're going to be that little bit more unsure about what to expect from their goalkeeper, because they don't automatically expect what they're going to do when what the goalkeeper is going to do. That is, when the goalkeeper is different each week. Could be Sam Walker one week, Anthony Jarkala another week, Vito Manoni another. So if you can get a consistent bit of team selection there, then hopefully that will sort it out.
I'll give credit to Paul Clement in that he's finally found his favourite fullbacks. At the very least, it looks like Blackett and Yadom of the consistent selections there, but I agree with the rest of it. And that brings us nicely on to Evan Collins, who has asked, my question for the mailbag is, if all the goalkeepers were fit, which one would you choose? And, I mean, you've kind of summed it up pretty well there, Sim. Manoni's a forgotten man of the club at the moment. Sam Walker played a game. It seemed like Yakou was injured for the Bristol City game. Comes back in, and we just have that same problem as we've just been reminded now that Anthony Yakou is a decent goalkeeper, but he's not a brilliant one. The 2 goals that he let in, he kind of slipped for the second one, so I'll let him off. But the first one, got a hand to it, wasn't a strong one. And Matt, if you had to pick one, where would you say? Because, I mean, as Sim says, we do kind of need to pick one and be settled with it.
I do think it's a really tricky question, because none of them have really done enough to stake a claim and say, well, the number 1 jersey is mine. Manone obviously has the experience. We can also look at the fact that he's played with John O'Shea at Sunderland as well. He has a relationship with him. Whether that can work to our advantage and sort of forge some sort of partnership there that otherwise wouldn't be present with the other goalkeepers, I don't know. But Yakou has come in against Millwall, made, I think it was something like 10 saves in the game, which is just ridiculous. He could have done better with the first goal. I was sat behind that goal, and I did think he was kind of unsighted and did well to get down to it. So I probably wouldn't put that down as a goalkeeping error. But his kicking at the weekend, you could see there were groans from the crowd. He seems to be finding touch each time. So he's limited in that department as well. Have any of them really made that much of a claim to say it's their number 1 jersey? I don't think so. Sam Walker's come in, done well here and there. I mean, I'm not overly convinced with his performances. I feel like he's a decent backup at this level, but if he's your starting goalkeeper and I'm not the opposition side, I kind of fancy my chances. And I think having a weakness in that position for 46 games will eventually tell, because those mistakes that player makes are capitalised on by the opposition 9 times out of 10. So I do think it's something that Reading really need to sort out soon, in terms of being able to build some sort of relationship with the back 4 and get some sort of continuity there, like yourself and Sim touched on.
God, you have just reminded me, the first half, Yakou's kicking, the Ipswich fans were having an absolute field day, 2-1 up, and the opposition goalkeeper cannot keep the ball on the pitch. It was a little bit embarrassing, to say the least. Let's get to the next couple of questions then. OFC Shane says, don't know how we weren't 10-1 down in that first half, but that Meite goal was sexy. Absolutely no arguments here for me for that. Callum says, am I the only one getting Leroy Lita vibes? Exuberant celebrations, bicycle kicks, and capable of disappearing from games completely until he pops up with a goal. And that is a pretty neat little similarity there between Yakou Meite and Leroy Lita. I think the players, perhaps the problem with Lita, certainly towards the end of his career at Reading, just ended up with his back to goal too much. And that's one of the things that Meite does very well, and really faces the goal as much as he can and takes on the defenders and whatnot. And as we've discussed Meite, we'll move on to the final question of the mailbag, and it's one that we've been emailed in from Waldemar Janizak, our occasional reporter and certainly very exuberant Leroy Lita-esque Reading fan, if I may say so myself. He says, so I watched the Sky clip and combined it with my memories. Here's what I reckon happened for the ludicrous second Ipswich goal. The first thing, long kick by Ipswich goalkeeper. Then O'Shea misses the first clearing header because an Ipswich players blocked him. Moore and Yaddon converge on the loose ball, both ahead of Freddie Sears, and both could clear it, but both leave it to the other. Moore was in the best position to hammer it away, but he thought Yaddon was going to do it, and Yaddon thought Moore was going to do it. So lack of communication there. Meanwhile, Yakou is also in an initial position to get it before Sears, but he slips as he advances and goes back instead of forward, further confusing Moore and Yaddon. So nobody goes for it as Moore, Yaddon and Yakou all think someone else is going to clear it. The ball comes to Sears, who calmly slots it in, neatly wrapped up there by Waldemar. He says it's a comedy of errors, but how should it have been avoided? I think Moore should have belted it away. He was in the best position, but he didn't take the responsibility because he's not a genuinely commanding leader. What do you think? Now, Sim, we gently touched on Liam Moore having a pretty poor game earlier, but that is a pretty comprehensive summary of what went wrong in the second goal, and Moore is probably the one who I hold most responsible for, even if it was absolutely torrential rain at that moment. The conditions were not favourable, but Liam Moore, genuinely commanding leader, is probably the thing that we need in the defence at the moment, and it's the thing that Liam Moore needs to become to improve his game, in my opinion, but it hasn't worked out these last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to what I was saying a bit earlier about the inconsistent team selection, if you don't have a consistent team selection, you are going to have more doubts in the players' minds. And as Waldemar touches on there are opportunities for Reading players to clear their lines, whether it's the goalkeeper or one of the outfield defenders, and they just don't take their opportunity. They need to be decisive. They need to get to the ball and just boot it into touch if that's what it comes to. And that is often what defending is about. It's not about anything too complicated, nothing too over the top. Sometimes it's just about spotting the danger, deciding in a split second, I'm going to deal with it, and getting the ball out of the danger area. And at the end of the day, that's what we don't have at the moment. And I don't think that's necessarily about an individual player, because, to be honest, all of our defenders are capable of it. But in moments like this particularly bad second goal on Saturday, this kind of doubt in the mind, this kind of lack of action, it can affect anyone, whether it's O'Shea, Moore, or Ivorian, McShane coming back in, whoever.
And Matt, to round this off then, on Liam Moore, I mean, it's difficult to work out. I think the point that you've said there, Sim, that I'm interested in is the overcomplication of it, and certainly that was something we did under Stam so badly, and it's, not just, it was kind of before Stam as well that we were making lives difficult for ourselves, certainly on the ball. Under Clement, we're getting caught in possession less as a team, in possession, in defence, but we're still managing to make those sloppy errors, and Clement is continually picking up on it as well in his press conferences.
Each time I go to a game, I think we can't concede a goal more ridiculous than the last, and we somehow seem to manage to have achieved that this week. The fact that we're sat here analysing a goal kick from the opposition's keeper, which has resulted in a goal, is laughable. I mean, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, sort of thing. But I do think continuity really is a big thing that we need to have, and someone taking some sort of responsibility. I think that goal summed up the problem within the Reading side. Is just a lack of responsibility, or anyone willing to take responsibility for a situation and really take charge. And the fact that there's 3 or 4 players there at fault for that goal. Yes, Liam Moore, who we're probably looking at as I was looking at the beginning of the season as being one of the leaders, and hoping that he come to the forefront of this squad and be a real kind of pivotal figure within the squad at the beginning of the season, and seeing him making mistakes like this and kind of not having the best form recently, it's kind of, I am finding it incredibly frustrating. Simply, do I know what the answer is? No. Paul Clement is in a better position than me to see that. He sees them in training, so the players starting on a Saturday must be doing something right within training, but it is hugely frustrating when you see these soft, sloppy goals going in. I mean, if we don't concede that goal, the second goal, we get 3 points there. We scored 2 goals away from home against Blackburn earlier in the season, only for Paul McShane to give away 2 penalties in one game. Yeah. And it's just kind of, we're dropping points where each time you think we can't, like we've done well here, we seem to manage to throw it away time and time again. And it's frustrating to watch. It must be frustrating for them to play in a team that seems to be struggling with just silly, sloppy individual errors as well.
Yeah, I think one thing that you say about the training man, I'd love to know what sort of conversations Paul Clement's having with Thiago Aloy at the moment, because Aloy just can't nail down a regular place in the team despite pretty much having his best season so far in a Reading shirt. So yeah, there's stuff going on there, and yeah, I do very much agree that certainly when it comes to defensive organisation, that's probably one of the hardest things for fans to truly understand and truly nail. You know, we can all work out how attacks going, and we can all work out how, you know, goalkeepers save the ball and how shots aim for the far corner and whatnot, but working out the intricacies of defensive partnerships and everything is one of the most important things as a manager and player to do. It's just not quite working out at the moment for whatever reason. So we'll obviously return to that as a theme when we go away to Wigan and away to Leeds in the next couple of games, because we all know our defence is going to be tested there. So in any other business, we'll be looking ahead to the post-break action.
The Tilehurst End Podcast.
By Reading fans, for Reading fans.
I'm going to start with the prediction league in any other business this week, because those of you who unfaithfully leave us early will never get to hear that Dan Wimbush is having an absolutely storming prediction league season at this moment in time. He's currently on 19 points, having got 2-2 for Reading Ipswich, his 5th perfect result of the season. Handbags is on 14 points, Johnny on 12, both of those got a 1-1 draw against Ipswich. Ollie's on 11, Sim 9, myself on 7, Westie's on 6, having got a point again against Ipswich, and Tom Crocker back on 4 points. And just to put that into perspective, at this stage last year the top score was only 10 points. So Sim, does that mean that Reading are a lot more predictable, or does it mean that we're getting better at betting? #GambleAware.
Bit of both, I think. To be honest, I'm just delighted to be out of the bottom 3, which is I think the theme of the season going so far.
Yeah, I've just realised that means I am in the bottom 3, which is, as the regulator of this prediction league, I'm going to make it clear now it's a bottom 2, not a bottom 3. So I'm hovering above the danger zone. Westie last year's champion, and Tom can be in that ignominious position, should I say. So Wigan and Leeds then are our first 2 games when we get back for the international break, and Sim, it could be harder because Wigan, let's face it, have tailed off a little bit recently. They only won one of their last 3 home games, and generally speaking, they've actually lost the last 4 in a row. So they were on the precipice of the playoffs, now dropped down to being only 4 points above us. We then go to Leeds, who aren't quite as good as they were at the start of the season, but are certainly there or thereabouts, and that seems to be where they're going to stay for the rest of the season. And, you know, it's not ideal really to be going to those 2 places straight off the back of an international break.
No, certainly not. Wigan and Leeds both very tough games, even on the best of days. But one thing I will leave you with is that our first 2 international breaks that we've had this season, we won straight after. No, we got the win against Preston, and we followed up another international break by beating Millwall as well. So perhaps there's a little bit of a form thing for Reading so far this season of immediately bouncing back from international breaks by getting a win. So don't write off a victory at Wigan too early.
Matt, are you hopeful that we're going to go up north? You know, 2 games in 4 days, both are long trips, both difficult ones. After the international break, where's your hope of points going to come from that one? Or those 2, should I say?
Both sides have got very decent home form. I mean, Wigan have picked up points against all 4 of the sides in the bottom half of the league at home, so they're beating the teams below them, or the teams around them and below them as such. And Leeds, I think, if they turn up on the day, they could really cause us problems. I mean, the way we defend away from home as well, I think we're going to cause problems for ourselves. So a good attacking team really could cause us some big problems. So I could feasibly see us returning with no points from those 2 games. I'd like to see us, or like to think that we can get a point away to Wigan potentially. But yeah, a return with 0 points is still possible, unfortunately.
It certainly seems like the most likely outcome from here. And then We have the Leeds game is in the midweek after the Wigan game on the 24th, and then we go back to 2 straight weekends of action. Reading versus Stoke on the 1st of December, and the other one we'll talk about in this section, Reading versus Sheffield United on the 8th of December. And, I mean, Sheffield United really are, if you thought last season was a bit of a fluke as they came up from League One, certainly not the case. They've only won one of their last 5, but that doesn't mean that they're not 4th in the table. Matt, you said that 0 points is a likely return out of those 2 away games. Those 2 home games, I mean, Stoke are a bit wavy. Sheffield United, you know, they're not brilliant at the end of the day. They are still a very good Championship team, but they're beatable, certainly at home. You'd take 4 points out of that any day of the week, wouldn't you?
I would definitely take 4 points out of that. I think Stoke is going to be the more likely of the 2 if we can pick up points. But I think that Sheffield United team could surprise a few people with the football they play when they do come down. I mean, all the noises I'm hearing out of Bramall Lane are that Chris Wilder's got a very good, very exciting attacking brand of football being played up there. So it's one of the games I'm looking forward to. Am I hopeful for points? I mean, I think you have to go into every home game looking to get 3 points. If we can capitalise on set pieces and keep it tight at the back and win the game that way, then I'd be more than happy. But yeah, I think 4 points from 4 games is probably realistic. We're averaging a point a game at the moment, so it fits with the mean. I mean, they're tough fixtures coming up as well, so I can't see us being overperforming wildly above the mean at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Sim, leave us with a bit of optimism then, because Sheffield United, they've won 4, lost 4.
Sorry, that really was dour, wasn't it?
We are here by fans for fans, and that was certainly that was by fans. I think that dour certainly was in keeping with the mood. And Sim, these sort of the stats I'm trying to pick up on the moment is Sheffield United 4 wins, 4 defeats from their away games. Stoke have drawn 5 of their 9 away games, so it's hard to really, you know, it shows a lot of inconsistency. It shows that these games are going to be tight, and perhaps if we're going to get much out of them, we're probably going to have to rely on a little bit of luck, which, you know, it's got to have to start coming our way at some point.
Yeah, I guess so. And something we haven't touched on is that going into these games, there's going to be no pressure on us, to be honest. No one's going to expect us to get anything out of the Leeds game or the Sheffield United game. Obviously, we're going to be looking more at getting points from Wigan and Stoke, but particularly with those Leeds and Sheffield United games, people are going to be expecting us to just get thrashed in both of them, probably, looking at the start those 2 teams have made to the season. And perhaps with that lack of pressure, maybe we'll be able to do ourselves a little bit more justice, perhaps give a better account of ourselves.
Well, Sheffield United certainly dealt with us pretty convincingly in both the times we played them last season, so let's hope by the time 8th of December comes around, we will be in a little bit better form to deal with them. This show will then be returning in a couple of weeks after the Wigan game. Probably between the Wigan and Leeds game is the most likely time. We'll be returning after the international break. There will be a couple of weeks in early December we take off, or more particularly I take off, because I have some examinations and courses and whatnot I need to deal with. So we'll not be entirely with you throughout December, but we'll certainly be jumping on to record if something significant happens, such as Paul Clement decides that he doesn't want to continue, or Reading decide they don't want to continue with him. So for the next 2 weeks, we'll leave you, and that means me thanking you for joining us through all the way to November, and certainly thank you, Sim, for popping on tonight. Sim available at Sim from Bucks on the old Twitter.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And Matt, it's nice to have you on again, mate. I'll make sure, no doubt, the next time we have a Tilehurst End meet-up at the football, I'll let you know exactly where to come and find us.
Cheers, thanks very much, guys.
That's available at PannasAndNutmegs on Twitter. And that is that then for episode 175 of the Tilehurst End Podcast. We can all now go and take a couple weeks off and just simmer down. And I think I pretty much always say this at the end of the podcast, that we can always just relax and take our mind off football, and eventually, hopefully, when it comes back around again, we'll have something to cheer about, and there'll certainly be no pressure on us going to Wigan and Leeds. And anything we get from there will be gratefully received as we enter the Christmas period. And thank you all for joining us. come on your ass.
It's funny how the crumbs always leave a trail. Funny how the crumbs always leave a trail. Funny how they always leave a trail. You smile, you smile. Funny how the crumbs always leave a trail, even when its steam is on your tail. Funny how they always leave a trail. You smile, you smile. Why do you sit on this side of the street? Please tell me why. Why don't you break this old biscuit for me? It's funny how the crumbs always leave a trail. Funny how the crumbs always leave a trail. Funny how they always leave a trail. You smile, you smile. Funny how the crumbs always leave a trail, even when its seam is on your tail. Funny how they always leave a trail. You smile, you smile. Why do you sit on this side of the street? Please tell me why. Why don't you break this old biscuit for me? Break this biscuit for me. Making your mark on the main wide leaf. Drink plenty of courage, you're starting to speak. Kissing out the copper, would you do it for